watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome to Let's Talk Business. My name is Kelly Bolton. Thank you so much for joining us today as we address a very important subject, higher education. With the rising cost and competition for higher education, it's important that students and their families are well versed in the application process as well as the resources for financial aid. And to share their guidance on this subject, we're honored to have with us John Berger, Assistant Director of Admissions, and Gordon Bloom, Assistant Director of Financial Aid, both with Christian Brothers University. So, without further ado, let's talk business. Gordon and John, thank y'all so much for joining us.
All right, thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
It's wonderful to talk about higher education, and we're being filmed at Germantown High School, which is wonderful, and I know all these students are looking to continue their education. So, tell us, John, about the Christian Brothers admissions process, and then maybe is it similar or different than other admissions processes?
Sure. It's I want to talk in both generalities and specific to CBU today. So the admissions process starts off with sending your ACT scores, SAT scores, and your high school transcripts. Students who are seniors in high school can submit those, and we'll review them while they're still in high school to determine their GPA. And then once they graduate, we would certainly receive their final high school transcript that proves that they've graduated. Mm-hmm. So we evaluate their high school transcript, and in addition to that, we look at their ACT and SAT scores. And those ACT scores typically is what we get as ACT. We look at those to determine not just can they be accepted into the college, but are they going to be a good fit in certain programs within the college. For example, our engineering program or science program requires typically maybe higher math scores for students to do well. And so we see statistically that students who have better ACT scores in math may do better in our engineering and science programs than maybe a student who doesn't have those higher ACT scores. So we can kind of determine a student's pathway throughout college based on those ACT scores. So a student would submit those documents to us, we would evaluate them and determine not just acceptance, but also what kind of scholarships they could be offered based on those scores. And so that's kind of the first steps of the admissions process. Obviously, you have to apply first. It's very simple. It's just cbu.edu/apply. It does take just maybe 5 minutes to do. But once you've applied, you've sent us those documents. We get back with you within just about a day or so to let you know kind of where you stand. Once we have all the documents, we've made a decision. We'll let you know, like I said, what scholarships you can be awarded and kind of those next steps of working with financial aid and moving through the process of actually being enrolled at the college.
That makes sense. Well, and Gordon, Christian Brothers is a private institution, so I'm sure people that might think there's no way I could afford going to a college like CBU, I'm not going to apply. And when John's talking about financial aid, that makes me wonder, how does a student evaluate their ability to afford a college? Because I'm sure some colleges get ruled out because they think it's not affordable, and others they think are affordable. So how do you work with admissions?
Financial aid is different between every student, and there's a lot of misconceptions on looking at the sticker price and the cost of tuition. A lot of students look at that and it's very scary at first. However, when you add the admissions process with the scholarships, as far as academic scholarships go, as well as their financial aid, which is financial aid is helping students go to college. And that's from getting aid from state funds, federal funds, as well as outside scholarships as well, and also loans to help make college affordable for students. So every student is different, like I said before, but we try at CBU, whenever we're talking to students and parents, that they have an idea what they're getting into before they actually take, oh, I'm coming here or not.
Right. So really, I guess what you're saying is, don't look at all the colleges you think you like and then rule out a school because it looks too expensive. Because
Correct.
You want to explore what options you have before just assuming that it's too expensive.
Yes, you're correct.
That makes sense. And so other than, John, other than say financial aid, what are things that students need to look at when they're trying to consider where they would choose to go to college?
Sure, that's a great question, and I always encourage students to apply to multiple schools, have as many options to them as possible. One thing that I think you should always start with, and this may seem obvious, is kind of, is that college going to get me where I want to go? And so basically what is that asking is, does that college have my major? And so I've seen students start off at some institutions and they end up understanding that, oh, that college doesn't actually have the major I want to go into to get me to the career I want to get into, so they jump colleges. So make sure that your college has the major that you want to get into first to help you get where you want to go. You can also reverse engineer it, maybe find someone in that profession that you want to get into and ask them, hey, I see you're a doctor or you're a lawyer or a musician or whatever it is, and then reverse engineer, well, how did you take those steps to get into where you are? What kind of graduate school did you go to? What did that graduate school require at the undergraduate level, at like maybe CBU, to get into graduate school, to become a, whatever profession? And so you could reverse engineer it like that, but ultimately, will that college help me move to my career goals? That's one kind of underlying thing you should look at when picking a college. Financial aid is certainly another huge point. And then also, is that college a good fit for you? And so some institutions may be too small, some institutions may be too big, some institutions may not have some of the social life that students are looking for. Each student is completely different on what they want, and so I always encourage a pros and cons list of each college that they're looking at.
I'm sure visit the college too.
Oh, absolutely, because you're going to be spending 4 years there, on campus, night and day. Is this somewhere that you can see yourself living? You walk around campus, you see the events going on, you see the social life, you see, can I see myself really fitting in here on a day-to-day basis? And so it's beyond just academics of, well, does this college have my major? Is this college affordable? It's, well, can I see myself fitting in here as a person and as an individual? And so I think those are three kind of predominantly underlying factors when determining a college.
That makes sense. And I guess ultimately then you get an offer from a school and then you have to weigh the financial package. Can I afford it? Because with the rising cost of education, I'm seeing more and more in my practice, kids getting out of college and they're never going to pay off their debt. I mean, they've racked up such enormous debt, and the career path they chose is not going to give them the income that's going to be able to support the debt service, let alone because they've gotten undergrad and grad and
keeps on racking up.
And it racks up. So it's my understanding, Gordon, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's financial aid, but it comes in the form of, sometimes it's a loan, sometimes it's a gift, for lack of a better word.
Correct.
You don't pay it back, which may be a scholarship. So when someone says this is the package, or a school says we guarantee 100% of need met, that need may be met with a loan. Is that correct?
Correct.
Which gets kind of confusing because they think, oh, they're meeting my need, I don't have to pay for it.
Correct. So most students, whenever they apply, of course, when you apply for financial aid, you have to apply to the FAFSA. And the FAFSA is the application for financial assistance for most students. And from there, most students do qualify for a basic amount of loans, see if they get any sort of grants, and also state grants or state assistance as well. And it depends on the college that they're going to. If it's a community college, if it's a 4-year private, 4-year public as well. But as far as loans go, if a student does get a student loan and they're thinking, hey, is this what I want to take? A lot of students are very afraid of loans. However, you have to look at the return on investment. If you see I think about 2 years ago, there was a stat of where a student with a 4-year college degree over a lifetime makes over $1 million than a student with a high school degree.
And that is important.
And that is important. And of course, you have to, whenever you're going in and you're taking out loans, you have to be mature. If you're a student coming in, you have to be mature about it and know that you're going to have to end up paying that off.
Yeah, that's a key.
Yeah.
Well, I want to keep talking about this. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we will take a further look at how to navigate a path to higher education. Don't go away.
Art is really an expression of the self. If you look at a piece of art, you can see the artist within it.
All just really depends on what I feel like doing at the time. I generally have different ideas every day.
I really get excited when my students come up to me with unique ideas that I've not heard of.
You can't let everybody tell you who you are or what your art is or how to be what you want to be.
I really let the students go according to how they're progressing, and I try to give them as much as they're able to handle.
Well, I like drawing a lot, and I like painting, and I like being able to improve my skill and show people my art.
I try to get them to think creatively. I think that's one of the few things that we as teachers really need to try to push with our students.
I can't sing. I can't act either, but I can do art, so that's why I chose art.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Business. If you're just tuning in, I'm Kelly Bolton, and today we've been discussing the college admissions process, as well as resources to help fund a college education. So joining us today is John Berger, Assistant Director of Admissions, and Gordon Bloom, Assistant Director of Financial Aid with Christian Brothers University. So Gordon had to kind of cut us off, but we were kind of in the middle of talking about FAFSA and how it helps determine aid and loans and the maturity that's needed to take on and understand if you have a loan. And then I know we were talking about a four-year degree, you end up making more money. So let's kind of break this down. So you explained FAFSA. Now, what about state?
So
what happens with the
so
state?
state aid, for example, for students that are in Tennessee, and they apply for a college in the state of Tennessee, for example, CBU, many students qualify for state aid if they have a 21 or over on the ACT and they attend a school here in Tennessee. They get the Hope Scholarship, which is additional as an incoming freshman. It's $3,500.
Oh, wow. But what happens how do you apply?
You apply from the FAFSA.
So if you have to do the FAFSA in order to get
Correct.
the Hope Scholarship,
Correct.
it doesn't happen automatically.
Because the FAFSA goes to the Department of Education, and then the Department of Education sends it to the state entities.
Right, and I have been told and experienced the FAFSA is can be an overwhelming thing, and I can see people say, it's not worth it, I'm gonna get the Hope Scholarship anyway, but you don't get it if you
Correct.
don't fill it out.
And that's also as far as for Tennessee Promise as well, if you're going to a community school in the States as well, or a technical school in the States. It just, that is the first step, especially state aid. And then depending on your need, you could qualify for additional grants like the TSA award, which is a $4,000 grant from the state of Tennessee.
Really?
So,
very good.
And it's from completing the FAFSA early. So if you haven't completed that right now, I would recommend to do so.
Yes, everyone needs to complete the FAFSA. That's a good point. Well, and we were talking, John, about during the break, you know, people see Christian Brothers University is this much and XYZ is this much, and so you think, well, it's definitely going to be more expensive, but sometimes it's not. Is that correct?
Correct, and like Gordon was saying, every student is completely different. How you felt the FAFSA, what kind of score you have on the ACT, what your GPA is, it makes every student's financial situation a little different. And so while our cost tuition may be higher than, say, a state school, the amount of scholarships that we give out is also going to be a lot higher. And so at the end of the day, those two things balance out to make it a lot more affordable than maybe people might think.
That's really good to know, because I do worry sometimes that people make a decision and not with a complete set of facts. They see 100% of need is met here, but they didn't realize that there's really, you know, this many people get merit scholarships and everybody else they're meeting the need, but they're doing it through loans. Well, that's a big difference than maybe 100% of the need is not met, but it cost you a whole lot less. So you've got a lot to weigh. Well, and tell me, John, when students come to campus and they sign up to do a tour, what are the things they should be thinking about, looking at when they're walking around campus?
So I definitely think once you get on campus, beyond just looking at the do I fit in here aspects, I think another important focus is looking at the quality of the academic program that you're looking to get into. And so when students come and visit campus, as they're making those appointments, our incoming students are often given the opportunity to sit down with a faculty member one-on-one to learn at a greater depth from a subject matter expert on the various programs, what all are they going to be getting into in those programs. And then additionally, not just talking to a faculty member, but maybe sitting in on a class for a day. So coming in, looking at the labs, looking at the lectures, talking with their students in class who are there right now. We give them, the incoming students, that opportunity so that the students can make an informed decision, not just, oh, do I like it here? Do I have a good fit here? Is it affordable? But is the academic quality what I want? And I think they'll learn very quickly on campus that I think 95% of our faculty members have the highest terminal degree possible in their field. And so we're being taught by PhD level faculty for the most part, which is fantastic. And so getting to learn the academic power of the university that you're looking at is another important facet when you're touring the campus.
Well, it sounds like, when you take this together, you've got to look, is it the right social fit? Is it the right economic fit? Is it the right educational fit? That it shouldn't just be a process you take very lightly.
No, you should not.
And and what about these forms and the application process? I mean, first, let me ask you, John, the application process. There's multiple types of applications.
Sure.
Common App, some other type of app. It's I don't know, and then each school has different apps.
Sure. So about 40 years ago, a group of colleges got together and said, why are we going to require individual students to make multiple applications to multiple colleges? And they came up with the idea of the Common App, where you complete the Common App and you can apply to multiple universities across the country in just a few clicks, which is very convenient. So we do accept the Common App, and if you go to cbu.edu/apply, you'll be given the option to either do the Common application or to do the application just through CBU's website, where you're just applying to CBU. And so we accept both of those. Neither is faster or better than the other, and so those are two of the avenues that students go through to apply to CBU. But I certainly encourage the Common App, just because I'm all for giving students as many options as possible.
Right. And then what about demonstrated interest? Is Christian Brothers a school that you have to demonstrate your interest, or I know some schools really require demonstrated interest?
So there are certain aspects of that for our scholarship competitions, where students actually come to campus. So we invite students who are as we're moving through the springtime to get to the fall, we invite students to campus for scholarship competitions, where we see, okay, which ones are more serious about coming here? Let's invite them to campus. Let's have them compete for scholarships. And so those ones who are more serious about coming to CBU, we invite them, we get them up on campus. We offer a lot of scholarship money to students who are more interested in us.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and so it's a really fantastic opportunity for students in the springtime to get more aid. But as far as just the admissions process of on their application, how strongly interested are you in CBU? We don't gauge that so much on the initial application. It's more as we develop a relationship with the students throughout the year, we can tell, kind of hot, warm, cold, where are they?
That makes sense. Well, we're going to take a break. When we return, we will take a further look at how to navigate and path to higher education. So please don't go away.
This place, it's extremely unique.
You are pushed to do things that you didn't know you could do because someone else saw it in you.
If you're with us for your whole 4 years here at GHS, you get a great foundation of amazing classes.
Try the priest.
The approach we take to whether it's the fall play or the spring musical is that the students are truly the ones that are making the magic happen.
Tell all the
You put the work
in off and on stage. Not only are you on stage acting and playing a part, you're working, you're pricking your fingers, sewing the costumes, you're learning how to make exotic makeup designs, you're learning how to build the set that you're going to be planted on.
And as you grow with us within the program, your skills continue to develop, and we build off your previous knowledge, and hopefully by the time you graduate, you're a well-rounded professional in a way, and you can move into any area that you'd like after high school and succeed.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit GHS-Kappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Thank you for joining us on Let's Talk Business. Today we've been discussing the many different ways students and family members can help fund the cost of college education, as well as how to find the right college fit. To wrap up this conversation, we've invited John Berger, Assistant Director of Admissions, and Gordon Bloom, Assistant Director of Financial Aid with Christian Brothers University. So thank you guys for staying around. Unfortunately, this is our last segment, and I've got like tons of questions to still ask you. Gordon, I wanted to ask you about the net price calculator, and how accurate is it and how do you use it?
Okay, so at CBU we have a net price calculator, and many other colleges may have a net price calculator as well. But it's good for students and parents to use. You put in your information, and it gives a pretty decent estimate of how much aid, scholarships, and a decent of how much out of pocket it may cost you to go to CBU.
And is out of pocket including the loan portion, or?
Loans can be included on there, or you could decide to take that off.
Okay.
So, but loans are usually included on there if you qualify for it as well. So it's really 3 steps that you have to put in your basic information in. Then it'll ask for income information. You complete that, and then also it'll generate a report for you of what scholarships that you may qualify for, and a good estimate of how much out of pocket you may have to pay, or if all.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and John, if from scholarships, from a merit-based, I know every university is different on at what ACT level you can start thinking you might be in range to get scholarships. So for Christian Brothers, just for example, it's obviously here in our community, at what level do you start being competitive for a merit scholarship?
That's a good question. So there are a few scholarships that you get automatically just based on your ACT and GPA. Certainly the higher up your ACT goes, the higher those scholarships go. So those are called our merit-based scholarships. And those range from $9,000 up to $15,000.
It's a lot of money. A year?
Yes, and yeah, a year.
Oh, wow.
And
Very
you don't
good.
have to reapply for those. Those are continual every year. You get that automatically. And then there are also other scholarships that you can qualify for, competitions that you can qualify for based on your ACT range. And so a 21 versus a 25 versus say a 28 would get you invited to various competitions throughout the spring where you're able to compete for full tuition and fee scholarships. And so certainly your ACT does play more of a factor then as well as far as what competitions you can come and compete for, but those are full tuition and fee scholarships that we give out during the springtime as well.
Well, that's something definitely to take a look into, and I'm sure every school has something like that. Some schools are not as generous with merit-based and others are, so I guess you just have to look into it. And you know, something we were talking about earlier when we were taking a break, which I think is so important, is the outcomes. I mean, yes, I got a 4-year degree, okay, so now how successful am I afterwards? Can I get into law school? Can I get into med school? Can I become an engineer? So it's my understanding it's kind of like placement rate or acceptance rates to further education. So can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, and I think that ties well into our conversation about how do I make a decision about college. And we talked about kind of that reverse engineering process at the beginning of our conversation. Look at the college's outcomes. Where are their students going to work? Where are those students going to graduate school? how often are their students getting accepted to graduate school, to medical school, within 1 year of graduation at the undergraduate level. You'll see that CBUs is fantastic for medical school placement, for job placement in general, for engineering placement. And so with all the colleges that students are looking at, I really encourage students and parents to look at the outcomes of those colleges. And every college has a career services department that assists students with finding jobs, with helping them get into graduate school, medical school, things of that nature. And so make sure you're talking with the career services department as well at each college to determine where are these students going after they finish.
Is there any website you can go to find
Yes.
Acceptance to med school, acceptance to law school?
So if the colleges that you're looking at have good numbers and good placement, they should be advertising that.
Right.
And so if you go to our website and you look at different departments within CBU, they'll often have the numbers of placement into med school, placement into jobs. And so yeah, every college should have those numbers plastered everywhere. But there is a quick Google search, would be simple enough to type in the college that you're looking for, and then type in job placement rate or medical school acceptance rate, and you can find statistics out there on each college.
How would you know which ones to trust?
A lot of them are public, so each college is required to report that type of data in various ways, as far as students who are receiving aid, students who are graduating within a set amount of time, because your decision should also be made on how many of these students are graduating within 4 years, within 6 years, within 8 years. And so colleges are required to report those numbers to the government. And so there are some different websites out there that are user-friendly that you can do quick searches, and it'll compare colleges based on graduation rates, based on job placement, things of that nature. And if you do a quick Google search, usually the first 3 or 4 websites that pop up are very trustworthy.
That's great. Well, Gordon, I know we've got just a little bit more time, and because college is such an expense, and you're spending money to help you further your education, but more importantly, get a job. Is there anything before we close that you want to share with people that you would encourage them to look at when it comes to funding college?
Well, of course, the one thing I always recommend is do your research and know what you're getting yourself into. Have a plan. Have a plan of what your 4 years in college. Make a budget for yourself. And also work with your financial aid counselor. Every college have a financial aid counselor. And at CBU, we try to educate our students what they're getting themselves into.
And that's great. So you said the key word.
Yeah.
You're a financial aid counselor, which
Correct.
is great. Well, this has been great. I mean, I know we're filming at a high school, and all these kids are thinking, okay, college is doable, and I think you've given them a lot to think about as they are filming our show, and it's certainly our audience. So I want to thank y'all very much for joining us. I wish we had a lot more time.
All right,
Glad to be
thank you.
here.
Thank you.
If you have any other questions about today's topic or any other money matter, you can mail us your questions at Let's Talk Business, care of GHS-TV, that's 7653 Old Poplar Pike, Germantown, Tennessee 38138. We may even read your letter on the air, or you can check us out on our website at www.ghstv.org. We'd like to once again thank our guest, John Berger and Gordon Bloom, both with Christian Brothers University, for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed our discussion, and I hope you will join us again next month on Let's Talk Business.